All right, you guys, welcome in. This is Third and Teal, first episode. My name's Isaiah, aka Duval's finest. You can suck my bulkies the way I'm feeling with this free agency and how it's been going so far. Gearing up for the draft, we got new to the show. We got Eric, Mr. Talk. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing wonderful. Glad to be here.
Awesome. We established some stuff before the show. Me and Trevor down below. We're a little bit newer cats to the scheme, to the game than Eric is, but that's a lot of wisdom and stuff that can be brought, and that's what we're gonna have him for, and we can't wait. Trevor Downs, first time on the show. How you feeling? How's it going?
Man, I'm feeling great, man. It's great to be in a place of fellow Jaguars, man, because the world it's us against the world, man. It's us against the world. It's definitely.
Absolutely. Heck yeah, man. Well, I'm looking forward to a great show. Well, my bad, Eric. What were you gonna say?
No, I say that should be the team motto right there.
Oh, yeah.
Us against the world.
Us against the world.
It was always what it is. That's just.
It was always the Jags.
It was always the Jags.
I saw a thing that was like, it's gonna be funny when Ridley turns on all these contracts and signs with us, and then says it's always the Jags in his introductory press conference. Unfortunately, we do not get that chance now, but for the money he got paid, I'm glad we didn't get that chance. I don't know how you guys are feeling about that, but that is way too much money for me. $92 million over 4 seasons, $50 million guaranteed. If he doesn't hit his numbers and he gets $50 million over the 4 years, it's not too bad, but I feel like he's going to get some garbage time touchdowns with that scheme, being behind like they're going to be all the time, because we all know the Titans can't get a lead to save their lives, especially without Henry anymore. And how you guys feeling about that?
I feel like Mayo's not the guy to lead them that way, so no way they're gonna. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's gonna be nothing but garbage times touchdowns. And I think anybody that would argue, Ridley was our top receiver, would just have to remind them that we lost Kirk first drive of the Bengals game.
Right.
And that would be the one thing I'd remind them, because Kirk is still our wide receiver one, and he was our wide receiver one clearly, even with Ridley on the field. Kirk gels better with Trevor. They have a personal relationship. You see it on social media between the two of them all the time. Kirk is Trevor's guy. Okay. We don't have any business paying max contract type money to a receiver that consistently actually dropped open field lobs, just layups and dunks that really should have been slammed home for wins. And not to mention, he's making mistakes that newer receivers to the league like Zay are making, not getting 2 feet in the back of the end zone. How many touchdowns can you guys recall that we just watched walk through the back of the end zone because our receivers were not situationally aware enough to get both feet in? Because I can remember plenty that Trevor back shoulder faded beautifully right on the money, and they just weren't aware enough to put their feet down. And we lost out on those points. So I completely agree. I think 90 million or 92 million is way too much money, especially considering we have Josh Allen who needs to be paid. And in the next year, our quarterback needs to be paid. Our running back needs to be paid. We've got a lot of guys to pay coming up soon. He is not, I don't think he's priority one, especially with all the options in the draft.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's no way we should have paid him that amount of money, And I was thinking, a team-friendly contract, maybe 1-2 years, whatever, but 4 years, $92 million. No, no. For a receiver. Now, remember, he'd been out for a year. We took a chance on him. We have to give up the 3rd round draft pick, which, okay, it wasn't the 2nd. No problem. But he didn't perform $90 million.
He's trying to sign a contract like he walked us into the Super Bowl.
Right. So no, and he was inconsistent at times. You're like, how did you drop that? I mean, really, so
the only times he really saw success was on short dig routes where he has some of the cleanest route running in the league. And I can't deny that. He does have some of the sharpest routes you're going to see. But once the corner, it's like tight man press. If they didn't man press him, he was out of the game. He might as well have sat down. If he wasn't man pressed, sit him down because he's not useful anymore. The only thing he was good for was taking attention away from Evan Ingram and Zay Jones before his injury, because Zay Jones after his injury, he might as well have not touched the field either. Mm-hmm. And Christian Kirk, obviously pre-injury as well. He was just a good attention grabber, which I think, honestly, in my opinion, with the signing of Gabe Davis, we've got that again.
Yes. A proven receiver that has a knack for making big plays at the big times, Yes. So
I guess that can lead us in, that these free agency signings. I kind of want to know how y'all are feeling. Just regular A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever you guys want to grade them. Well, let's start out. Gabe Davis. We got 6'2". We ran a 4.54, I think, at the combine. On the field, he looks a little faster than that, honestly, when he gets going. He's a solid route runner. I mean, he's not elite route running, but he's got good top off speed, and he finds a way to get open. Something I think that Ridley and other guys didn't really do last year, in my opinion. I think that a lot of times if they got stopped, they just kind of stood there and waited. And then,
gave up on the play.
Yeah, you didn't have guys trying to get open.
You know who Gabe Davis remind me of? Jimmy Smith.
Absolutely.
Everybody said he was slow and he was this, but he catch the ball and he gets you touchdowns. You know what I'm saying?
In our Ring of Honor.
He makes it happen. So I thought Gabe Davis, that was outstanding. You can, because he can take the top off, right, of the defense, which we definitely need to get Kirk his underneath and Ingram his underneath routes. Yeah, that was.
And it was
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was gonna say it was 3 years, 39 million up to 50 guaranteed, right? Or up to 50 million potentially, right?
Probably with incentives and what have you, including.
So we got him for 30 million less than we got Christian Kirk for 2 years ago.
Right.
And at the time, everyone swore we overpaid for.
Of course.
And personally, I feel like we paid a lot for Kirk. Now don't get me wrong, his productivity absolutely worth the money he's getting, but I think we could have got him for cheaper personally at the time in the market we were in, because Kirk reset the wide receiver market. He really did.
Whoa. Hold on. We're not going to go into this narrative. I talked about it last year on the show. We're not going to go into this narrative. Mike Williams, a certified number 2. He's great. Don't get me wrong. Mike Williams signed his contract 4 days before Christian Kirk for roughly 3 to 4 million more per season than Christian Kirk.
You're absolutely right.
And he just got cut, and now they owe him $32 million for all the money they backloaded on his contract. So I'm just going to say it. Everybody says Christian Kirk reset the market. He did get more than what he deserved, but he got what we looked at for his potential, and we're the Jaguars, so we had to overpay. We're bad at the time. But let the record show, Mike Williams signed his contract 3 to 4 days before Kirk and got more money.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, let's be honest. We're just talking about Ridley, and during that time, we were where the Titans are now. We needed receivers, so we had to pay. Compared to whoever else was out there offering, so we had to pay. But I think the better signing was Duvernay.
I agree there.
I like the Duvernay signing.
Yes,
Duvernay is so fast, and especially for where he's coming in at. Because for me, I'm not a Jamal Agnew fan. I think Jamal is a fumble machine. I think his ball security is lacking, and I think he just sometimes he knows he's undersized, so he gives up on the play. And I think you can see it, and it's obvious, and we can't have that here. Honestly, especially with our offensive line struggles that we had when he was coming out of the backfield for like swing options on a receiver route, or just a bubble screen or whatever. You've got to reach the ball, man. Go for the first. Get us those yards, because first of all, everyone knows Press Taylor is going to waste first down on a 3-yard up the gut run when we don't have the line for it. Yeah. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows he's going to do it. He does it every time. It's guaranteed. If we get a first down, he's wasting 1 down on an up the gut run, when first of all, ETN is an outside the numbers runner anyway, and he showed us that numerous times, and for some reason we're just not getting the message. But I think if you get in the game, especially from a position he's in, you're not even in our starting receiver core group.
Right.
You're on the field and you still don't even try to make the most of it.
Well, Agnew was signed as a kick returner. He wasn't signed as a receiver or a back or whatever. He was signed as a kick returner. Some kind of way somebody got this wild idea. Well, let's use his speed on the jet sweeps and what have you. Well, like you said, his ball security isn't there because he's undersized. So yeah. And to put on the cherry on the top, he can't stay healthy lately. So that's Duvernay was, a great sign, because he's actually gives us flexibility in multiple spots. Receiver, kick returning, right? So, and he brings speed.
He's a burner.
Yeah. So you put, let's just hypothetically, you put Gabe on one side and him on the other, Kirk in the slot. And then you got Ingram who can be a beast when he wants to be. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Ingram could definitely be. I think I was reading the other day, actually, he's tied for first with the highest catch rate among all tight ends in the league.
He actually was above Kelsey. He was actually number one by a percent or two. Yep. He had 79.9%, which I think was actually the highest out of any pass catcher, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Oh, yeah, it was pass catchers. Yeah,
yeah,
of all pass
it was
catchers.
any pass catcher.
Ingram, actually, it's crazy because I got to meet Ingram in person and talk to him for a little while before the Cincinnati game, actually.
mm-hmm.
And he was telling us, I asked him, I said, man, I was like, I just got to know, what is it about you, that is enables you to be one of our security blankets, like our main security blanket. And he said, it's just time and work put in. I mean, that's
it.
Oh yeah.
That's it. And then of course, Mitch Morse.
Yeah.
I think that was a
Morse code
too. Yeah. Because we do need the anchor in the middle. Because what we have is just not working. It's not.
Real quick, Trevor, what was your grade for Gabe Davis signing?
My grade for Gabe Davis signing is an A. And I think it's an A mainly because I would give it an A+, but and the only reason I don't is because I have seen some of the other options we could have gone for. I do think we could have, for the same or roughly a little more money, gotten maybe a little bit better route running, maybe a little bit, just a little bit better on the, I don't know, just the fine-tuned mechanics of being a receiver. But that doesn't mean I don't like the signing. I really like the signing. And I think that as long as we don't squander our first-round pick in the draft, he's going to be a great mentor along with Kirk for a young new receiver to come in and light the end zone up.
Absolutely.
But I also think I do want this to be noted, though. Another reason I didn't give it an A+ is because I do feel like we are. I don't want us to. We may not be, but I don't want us to forget about Parker Washington and our background over here.
Right.
Because Parker Washington came in the Cincy game and balled out. Okay,
right.
Tough catches, contested catches. I mean, the kid showed why we drafted him, and then you go back and watch his Penn State highlights, because if I'm not mistaken, he came from Penn State.
Yeah.
His Penn State highlights, he was a stud, and he's been a stud. He's consistent. He's got speed, and he's got the route running. Right. He is a route runner. So if nothing more than have Gabe Davis mentor Parker Washington, because, again, you see all these people calling for us to draft a receiver. It's hard to go against that. But it's also hard to go against a good interior defensive lineman or maybe some more depth on our offensive line. It's hard to get away from that in the first round because we do have Parker Washington over here. And he is a proven good receiver. He is not bad at all.
Right.
And I think with the proper mentorship, and it gives him time to see the field. Last season, he saw the field very minimally. And he didn't start seeing the field, especially until the injuries. Yeah.
The injuries,
and, I think him being on the field is crucial to his development, obviously, as is to any player that's new.
Right.
I think with development, he's on his way to becoming, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good comparison for him, but he's
honestly Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk.
I think he's a good Christian Kirk comparison, but he has a much stronger lower body. So he can do that more gadget stuff if he needs to. But I think Christian Kirk, they're the same height. They run about the same speed. Route running wise, they're pretty technical. I think Parker Washington could be a better route runner personally than Christian Kirk with time, and I'm glad that we have those two because I think him learning behind Kirk could be great. But that'd be my comparison personally. That's the comparison I made on the show whenever we drafted him, and I think that's a solid one for me.
Keenan McCardell,
yeah,
that's a good one. I think another one that he reminds me of is back in the day, Rashad Green.
Yes.
I like a Rashad Green comparison for him because, I mean, I loved Rashad Green and his time on the Jaguars.
Yes.
I loved Rashad Green. Rashad Green always showed up for us.
Always.
Yeah, I can't think of a time where I was like, damn, Rashad, why? I can't. And then just the same thing comes to mind with Parker Washington, especially when watching him at Penn State. When I was watching him at Penn State, it was the same feeling I got from, their guys trusted him. And everyone in Penn State in the building knew he was a role player and they knew to get him the ball.
I would say, for me on the Gabe Davis thing, so I can put a grade on it, I'd say for the player, I'd say it's more of a B for me personally. I think he has his role he's going to play. I don't think he's a true number one. I don't think he can play that position. I think he can in certain situations, but I think it's an A for me overall because of the contract. I think we got him compared to 2 years ago. There's no inflation. That's the weird part. Like we're a better team. People want to play with Trevor. We got the Bills center and the Bills wide receiver. We didn't have to pay extra. And this is really the first year that I think, so we really didn't do anything last year, honestly. We're either 100 or we're 0. And last year we were 0. This year we're 100 again. But we didn't have to pay the Jacksonville tax this year. I don't think any of our players that we re-signed, I don't think we paid too much for any of them, honestly. No. I think they were all great deals. The guaranteed money is very low compared to previously. We normally guaranteed at least like 80 to 90% of the contract. We're only guaranteeing between like 50 to 60% of these contracts for the most part. So I'm really excited about the money we're spending and how we're spending it.
Right.
I think Balky's learned his lesson a little bit, but again, that's to be seen in the draft, how we supplement these guys. But I'd say the Gabe Davis pick personally, I put an A on it, and I think it was a solid pickup for the money.
I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Now that you say this, so because you did make the point, that Gabe Davis is not a wide receiver one, and that was one of my big knocks, is I think if we were going to bring someone in, I'd like to see either a bigger wide receiver one caliber or a mentor, and I think we got that. Now, but my question would have to be, do you think Kirk is a wide receiver one? And I'm not saying a traditional wide receiver one, because your traditional wide receiver one is a guy that's going to go up and catch it over everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's your traditional. But I think the way the league works now, and, we've seen this time and time again with many positions, over and over again, you take like a Taysom over there in New Orleans, these players really barely have positions anymore. They flow wherever they can get the ball and do what they can. So that being said, in our system and his chemistry, do you feel like Kirk is a wide receiver one for us?
I feel like for our system, for me personally, I think Christian Kirk is our wide receiver one in general. I think Gabe Davis, now that we have him, depending on what we do in the draft and who we get, I think Gabe Davis is now our situational X wide receiver /1, where he's going to line up. He's going to take those one-on-ones downfield, and he's going to come over the middle. He's going to do those routes that a traditional number one wide receiver would be. But I still think that with the way that Christian and Trevor have their chemistry and the way we run this offense, I still wholeheartedly believe that the bulk of the catches, besides, of course, Evan Ingram gets 60 catches a game. That's one thing. But I still think that out of wide receivers to be targeted, I still think Christian Kirk is the number one no matter what. I think that we now have a player in Gabe Davis who is 6'2", over 200 pounds, who can run with the best of them. That is now our situational number one that we can put out there, let him run. I think, kind of like we did with Ridley a little bit to get those other guys open, like you said earlier. But yes, I would say Christian Kirk is the number one. I would say Gabe Davis is the situational number one.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And if nothing else, it's the height alone, 6'2", so yeah, especially when
he's going up.
Because we do know Trevor likes to throw him up there sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Trevor likes to put them balls on the second floor. You're going to have to jump. But again, you got to think where he's coming from. He's coming from throwing to guys like T. Higgins.
Right, right.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not going to lie. I'm not on the train of signing T. Higgins, mainly. Not because I wouldn't love to have the player. I just
cost way too much.
Money. Yeah, we just can't spend the money. But I will say, though, just to circle that and, relinquish it back to you and we can move on to the next topic, would just be, talking about that Christian Kirk situation. I think with guys like Keon Coleman in the draft looming and Romeo Dunze, we've got guys that can come in and be that number one. So I think the signing and the money we spent is what makes Gabe Davis worth it. If we'd spent Kirk money on Gabe Davis, I'm really going to have to rate this an F. I think it's a terrible sign for us. At that point, we spent too much on what he's going to do for us.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, again, you are absolutely correct. We're not paying the Jacksonville tax anymore. And it was funny that you said that, too. Another point was I was just speaking with some people today about how we're not just getting a player. We're getting a player and their teammate. We've done that twice now because Devin Duvernay and he brought over Ronald Darby. Yes. And, Mitch Morse and Gabe Davis, and we didn't have to spend a lot to get them there. So
Exactly.
it's clear that Jacksonville is where people want to go. And I think it's clear that everyone knows, no matter what is said, that Trevor Lawrence is the next great, and I think that's just to be I do think he will follow Peyton Manning's career better, in my opinion. I do think Peyton Manning is a great comparison for a Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence can run better.
Oh yeah,
he's more athletic. He's a more athletic Peyton Manning, in my opinion. That's really what he is. And because Tom Brady was just, he is obviously the GOAT. I mean, I don't think there's any way you can debate it anymore. I mean, the guy set every record there is to be set at his position. You can't say anything more about him. But when you look at people like Patrick Mahomes is creating his own journey. Patrick Mahomes is not following anyone. No. He's in his own category. He's his own guy. Mm-hmm. And I think Trevor Lawrence is as well. And I think that once we build the team around him and the coaching staff seems to be our problem. We never seem to get that right. We seem to get it close enough, and then we make a good run, and everyone thinks we're good, and we try it again next year, and it doesn't work. Same thing like we did with Gus Bradley, or dang, what was his name? I can see his face right now, and I'm blanking.
Doug Marrone,
yeah.
I love Doug Marrone.
Yeah. we think we've got it, and then we just don't, and we just buy in again for the next year, and it's
Right. So one thing I will say, and we're going to talk about this on a separate pod. This is not for this pod, but I'm going to say it anyways. I am not on the Press Taylor hate train. I personally, I am a Press Taylor supporter. I will go more into depth on that whenever we get to the next one.
Yeah, we're going to need a whole pod on that.
We're going to do we can do a whole podcast on that one. We don't have to stick to one a week, but that I will say, and I will explain my position more whenever we get there. But okay. I am a lot more positive on Press Taylor than most. And again, we will get to that. This is not the pod, but I did want to throw that out there just because we're talking about coaching staff. I'm so glad we got the defense figured out. I think Nielsen and his staff he's bringing in are going to be phenomenal. I love what Nielsen runs. I would not be surprised. Now I'm going to say this now. I would not be surprised if we bring back Chason on a cheap deal. Chason's going to test free agency. This is the closest thing to the LSU defense we've ever had since he's been on the team. And I will say that the LSU defense they ran when they won their national championship and he was there, very similar to Nielsen's scheme. A lot of pressure. They're bringing Grant Delpit down. They're nothing short, nothing deep, nothing cheap. Where they're coming up, they're hitting people. They're sending these guys. They're playing as actual edges versus the way we play them right now, the way we played them previously. They weren't really playing as edges. We drafted Chason as an edge to play him as a DN. So I'm not defending Chason. I don't think we should bring him back. I am just saying with the way this staff is, I would not be surprised if they brought him back on a cheap deal for depth to help out if he stays unsigned and we can get him cheap.
I think you're right there. If we get him cheap, you're absolutely right. And I think under Nielsen and a coaching staff like Nielsen, he could develop to become a great asset for us. I think because he's one of those mini players we have on our roster, and we could name. I'm sure we could spend the whole pod talking about him, where they show flashes of potential of just greatness. They have it.
He is constantly in the backfield, man.
He's always there, but for some reason, he never closes the play.
He over pursues. He gets pushed at the last second. He doesn't tackle the quarterback. Like he is always in the backfield. Like I see him so many times when he plays. He gets in the backfield quickly. He's fast. He's athletic, but he gets pushed at the last second. He gets held. He over pursues. He tries to grab the quarterback and slips off of him. Like he's actually caused a lot of disruption that has led to sacks or bad plays that people just don't give him the credit for. Now, I am not saying in any way that Caleb on Chason is a good player that we should pursue and we should re-sign. I'm just saying with what I've seen out of him, I think he could develop into a decent player, if not a great rotational player. Don't think he's going to be a starter for us or ever be a top-tier edge threat. But I think he's a player, if we brought back cheap, he could be a solid asset in the rotation.
You see, you hit it right there, rotational player. He can give you those 4-5 plays to where, like you say, cause some havoc, in there, relieve Walker or even Allen, relieve him for a few minutes. And I agree with you. The systems we brought him in under wasn't beneficial. It was a good name, but the system wasn't beneficial to his abilities. You know, when you rush, especially as a linebacker, which I played, you know, you working with instincts more than anything. You know,
Absolutely.
and once you get to thinking, that takes away all your instinct. You know, and that's usually what I've been watching of him. That's what happens, and
Right.
just sometimes he looks confused out there.
You're
So,
right.
yeah,
You're right. And then you go back to the days of like a Telvin Smith led defense where we
yes,
had Telvin Smith in the middle and we're bringing that pressure and we're letting instinct take over and letting our cover guys cover and our bull rushers rush.
right.
And we're doing that. We're successful. You know, we're in our prime defensive era. And for some reason, people were just like, oh, that system works. Throw it away. Like, get rid of
Exactly. You know,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's see. So let's get these other ones real quick. I know we've talked about them a little bit. What would you guys say, Mitch Morse? What would you say your grade is on that one?
I said I give him an A. I give him an
Okay.
A. High B, low
Yeah,
A. You
that's
know,
what I was thinking. High B, low A.
for his experience alone. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because he has worked with Doug Peterson before.
Yep.
That's and the other um key to it is he's worked with a mobile quarterback in Josh Allen. See what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So that gives him, that hopefully that will what he'll teach the rest of the line, what to expect, how to set up, and I think his experience alone is a good move. It really is, and that's what I wrote. Yes, he's 30 something years old, so don't expect him to be around a long time. Okay,
No,
Yes.
and I don't. Yeah.
but hopefully his time there, and we draft a center or find our center of the future somewhere, he can teach them, show, and by the
Oh
time he
yeah.
really leave, we have that center in place already, and we won't have to go through this whole rigmarole again of finding, just putting somebody there just to say, okay, we got a center now, he's gonna be good, and
Oh yeah.
good deal. No, that's not it.
I can't
AKA
wait to talk
Brandon
about.
Scherf.
I can't wait to talk about that because that's definitely something I know is a position of need for me. I know what we're going to talk about in a little bit for the draft. So definitely, I'm glad you mentioned that because for me personally, I think Morse, like you said, he's an older guy. He's a vet. How many times did you see Josh Allen running for his life right because somebody came right up the middle of the line? Never.
Never.
How many times do we see Ezra Cleveland do a drop step to the left or block to the block downfield to the left and have a problem? Almost never. It was always when he had to have a switch with Fortner, whenever he had to go right, whenever he had to drop right, whenever they were doing pass pro or they were doing screens, protections, anything. There's plenty of plays you can see. Like there was one I saw where he was facing oh man, I can't remember the D tackle, but he's facing a big D tackle. And Fortner like is looking around and then like tries to help him and trips him and he falls over.
Yeah,
And people people are
literally
trying
hurts him.
to as like a negative play. Like, no, he got tripped by
Wow.
Fortner. It's easy to see. Like, this gives Ezra Cleveland and Brendan Sheriff the opportunity to play like we know they can, like we think they can. Because the thing about Cleveland is, and we can talk about him a little bit with this one since they're kind of tied together. The thing about Cleveland is like we brought him in knowing that he's a solid player. He's not a superstar. He could be, but we're paying him like no money.
No.
If he makes $28.5 million, that means he was a badass guard, and we're probably going to be re-signing him after 2 years to a bigger contract because it's all incentive based. I'm sure he got his workout bonuses, weight bonuses, blocking bonuses. I mean, if he makes 28.5, that means he was a badass guard. And if Sheriff, we just restructured him a little bit. But I wholeheartely agree. I think Mitch Morse is a high B, low A. He'd be an A to A plus if he was 28, but because he's in his 30s, that gives us a short rental, which I don't mind. But I absolutely agree in the point that this does not mean that we're not drafting or getting a young center. This could be, hey, Luke Fortner, you got a dude in front of you that can move a fucking bus by himself. Like he could punch a tree in half if he wanted to. So this could be. This could be a thing because, like I've said on the podcast before, like Luke Fortner, they asked him to put on weight and like get stronger, and he lost weight in the offseason. He lost like 15 to 20 pounds. You can't get stronger and lose weight. You can lose fat and gain muscle and muscle weighs more than fat. You can lose fat and trim down and get stronger. But as a center, you can't, as an offensive lineman, you can't lose 15 to 20 pounds and be any stronger than you were.
No.
I've played offensive line. I know guys that play it in the NFL. Reese Dismukes played for the Steelers. You know, he went to high school where I went to middle school. I know him personally. You know, he'll tell you, I've coached with him. You know, these guys that come out, you can't lose weight as a lineman and get stronger. It doesn't happen. So I think Mitch Morse is a good one in front of him because, you know, Luke Fortner might be a beefcake by the end of the 2 years, and he might be huge, but he's going to be 27, 28 years old by the end of it, you know?
Yeah, he's already out of his time.
Yeah, he's like 25 years old, 26. You know, he's the same age as Lloyd Cushenberry by the time the season starts. You know, it's like, honestly, I think we still go for somebody. We'll talk about that in the draft. I got a little carried away there. Like I said, low or high B, low A. What do you think, Trevor?
I honestly, I think for me, it's an A+, and I can see the obvious downsides, you know, as far as the short rental concept and those things being said. But I think it's such a good sign, and because it's finally showing a little bit of foresight from our front office. Finally, we are finally seeing foresight, and not even that. Even if just all we got from him was a couple years of a really good rental, that's a couple years of Trevor not getting the hell beat out of him.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that for me alone is worth an A+. That alone, preserve Trevor for as long as we possibly can. And I think that alone is worth the A+ on its own. And I also think that what we signed Brandon Scherff to be is what Mitch Morse is actually gonna be. Because I think Mitch Morse is actually gonna be that, you know, that role model, that teacher, that instructor, that guy to tighten our line up. Because I honestly, personally, I'm not a Brandon Scherff fan because of his performance alone. Like, he got beat too many times in solos.
Mm-hmm.
Solos, he was getting swam on. Like, they were literally just swimming him out of the way. And we paid mega money almost for him. Like, we paid a lot for him. We paid a lot of money for him to show up and let Trevor run for his life.
Absolutely.
Right.
Ezra Cleveland is the most solid offensive lineman we had other than Anton Harrison. And Anton Harrison is a rookie. And by the way, side note, you know, love Anton. Perfect draft pick. Absolutely love him.
Yes.
You know, he's doing so well. But to get back on topic, I think Mitch Morse for me is absolutely an A+, because even if we didn't draft anyone, he's still that role model and he protects Trevor. And on the flip side, if all we did was draft him for foresight to train someone, that's still finally foresight from our front office looking more than 5 minutes ahead. And I love that because, you know, you hit on it in our messages a few days ago about Balky's magic number seems to be 3 years. And that's absolutely right. His magic number it's like his sweet spot's 3 years. Well, that's not long-term for our franchise quarterback.
No.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You look at the people that have had success with their quarterbacks or at least had Super Bowls or been to them recently, the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a consistent line for the long haul. Jason Kelsey spent his whole entire career there, along with many others. Their front office has the foresight to lock down the key pieces that they know they need. And our staple has been doing the opposite.
Right.
It really has. Like, first of all, Calais Campbell, we should have never let him leave.
Oh, man.
Never let him leave. He was getting older. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. But first of all, that doesn't even play a factor anymore because he's still a dominant force everywhere he goes.
Oh, yeah.
So that should be noted. But secondly, our interior linemen on the defensive side are terrible.
Yeah.
They are terrible. And he would have been the perfect mentor to stiffen that up.
Right.
But again, lack of foresight. We just don't have it. And again, we're looking at young linebackers. You got Devin Lloyd, who could become very good. Very good. He's so good. He could be way, way better than he is, especially if we kept someone with the likes of Telvin Smith in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong, Telvin Smith stepped away for personal reasons from football, but I think that was brought on after our lack of enthusiasm to show him he was a wanted piece here.
Right.
And on top of that, I'm not agreeing with the fact that we didn't press harder to make sure we wanted Foye to know that he's wanted here. Because Foyesade, I feel like, is really underappreciated by our front office. Not our fans. I think our fans are very aware of the presence and the guy he is. Because
if we signed Patrick Queen, he was gone, honestly.
I agree. But I don't think that would have been fair either. I don't think that's right. Because
I don't think so.
And it's not even just about fair. I think, honestly, he needs help.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Foye Sade needs help. So to get rid of him in place of Patrick Queen.
I think the reason, and I'm going to say this, and I said this when we drafted him, and I wish this was true, but it's not, unfortunately, because he hasn't gotten as much play time. He hasn't turned into the player I thought he was going to. The reason that Foye is so underappreciated is because we got Foye Oluokun to pay a bunch of money to come in and make us good now, to help mentor and make Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma the duo that we wanted. That was absolutely why we did that. Chad Muma and Foye were supposed to come in because then you got, or not Foye, and Lloyd were supposed to come in, which Lloyd was 4th amongst linebackers in run stopping last year.
Yep.
Absolute beast. Coverage.
And take away his thumb injury, he's got 4 more picks.
Take away his thumb injury, he's got, absolutely. He dropped a bunch of them after that. Fantastic run stuffer. He's got some work to do in the coverage game, but that wasn't his game whenever he was at Utah. He was a pass rusher, and he had a couple picks here and there, but they weren't like he was running man coverage step for step down the field with tight ends. He's got a little bit of work to do in that game, but that's not his game, So I think the reason he's so underappreciated is because Balky didn't bring Foye Oluokun in to sign him to another contract and to give him. He gave him that 3-year deal because he wanted him to come in. He wanted, after 2 years, to be able to say, Foye, it's been awesome. We're kicking you to the curb. We're saving this money. Now Chad Muma and Devin Lloyd are going to be our guys. And unfortunately, Muma hasn't worked out like that. He hasn't got. I don't think Muma got a fair shake, honestly.
I don't either.
I think Lloyd is better. I think that Muma rookie season though with Lloyd, I think Muma should have kept the role a little bit longer because they ended up pulling Lloyd later because he just wasn't having that. And I know from what they talk about with him at Utah, he was very astute. He knew the playbook. He was helping people with the playbook. When he came here, the problem wasn't that he couldn't get the playbook. It was that even players now that defensive coordinator. What was his name last year? Yes, Caldwell. Like now that he is gone, there have been multiple reports from players, and I don't know if there's any names attached to him. A lot of people were saying they was very dysfunctional. They didn't understand the defense. There were many plays that were crossed over and changed. A lot of players, and that's why we saw so many players like Trayvon and everybody out of position so much, and Lloyd especially, because you're supposed to be the green dot guy after a year, and you don't even know the defense because it changes so much. There's so much inconsistent with it, and I think that hurt Muma too. But Muma knew the defense better coming out of the preseason. He got those reps because Lloyd got hurt. I think he should have gotten more time, but at the same time, I know Lloyd is a better player overall instinctually, and we saw it last year. He's a beast.
I don't know if I would say instinctually. I'd have to say that it'd have to be experience, just because he is getting those snaps. Because the times Chad Muma came in, even this past season, he is a freak of nature, and he is an absolute missile to the football.
He's a little small though.
Yeah, but he's always there.
Oh, he's a missile. But he had a couple players though where like he got there quick, fast, and in a hurry. But he was just too small to make the play, or he didn't quite tackle properly, as a smaller linebacker, because he was a safety. Like people forget, he was a safety / star player. He wasn't a linebacker coming into college. He actually started as a safety and got moved down, kind of like Foye. But Foye is 6'3". I know Muma is too, but Foye runs a 4'4" and is 6'3" and 230 pounds. Yeah. He's a little different of a player. But Muma was a safety. People don't realize that. He got moved to linebacker because of his instincts and because he could play the star position, which is really more of what he played in college. So he can get there quick, fast, in a hurry, but he struggles with bigger players. Or if he over pursues and he misses it. But again, I think that's my take on why Foye is underappreciated, is just because I think Muma was supposed to this year step into the role. And I think Devin Lloyd was going to move over and be the green dot. And I think Muma was going to be the number 2. Yep. But
agreed there.
Yeah. Let's or my bad. If you have a point, yeah.
No, I would say he still may be. Hey, some players just take a little longer.
It's hard to do that though when you have Foye last year, not this past year, but the year before, again leading the league in tackles.
Yeah, he almost did this year too. He almost had a
how can you take that man off the field? Literally, how can you sit back and justify to anyone that knows football taking that man off the field?
You can't.
Because the rest of our team seems to tackle with an arm tackle or a pillow.
Oh man. You know how many
tackles, man.
You know how many times I have yelled like, will you please?
Man, I can tell you how many I have.
How many times you seen them trying to take the ball, but they get carried 5-10 yards down the field?
They're just trying to strip the ball. They're wrapping
Just
up.
watch him, man. Yes.
Just grab
You
his
know,
legs, take him down.
take him down. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Go
Let's you're good, man. Let's run through these last couple. I think me personally, I think Gabe Davis and Mitch Morse are my favorite two signings personally. I don't know if you guys are on the same boat. I think let's run through these last couple just a little bit quicker. I think just kind of grades, maybe one thing you'd like about them. And we get into this draft talk a little bit because I am very pumped for the draft.
Let's do it.
But let's Darnell Savage. What are we thinking on Darnell Savage?
I give him a B.
Okay.
Yeah. And the only reason why I give him a B, the height thing is with me. You know,
yeah, 5'11".
When I think of a safety, I want my safety to be long and linky. You know what I mean? Yeah. But other than that, he got the experience. He's been in the systems, so yeah, he's good. Yeah. Now, can he translate all that here in Jacksonville? Hopefully he can, and it'd be a great thing. But once again, with the experience, he can help the younger players on the squad that that's coming up. So
he's only 26.
Right.
So he's got all that experience and he's not that old.
Exactly. So
yeah. What about you, Trevor?
I think I give Darnell Savage an A mainly because the size thing, I have to look past it when I remember the likes of Deshaun Gibson or, you think AJ Bouye, people like that. They weren't as small as him, but they were undersized, and that was the dig on them always. But they were some of our most lockdown DBs in the history of Jacksonville, other than Rasheed Mathis, stuff like that. Like they're up there. They're some of our best corners, and
more recently D Will.
Oh, and D Will.
D Will's 5'10".
That's another topic because I'm so upset about letting D Will walk.
I get it. But
I get it, but I'm still upset about it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Because I think for what we just brought Darnell Savage in, D Will could have done the same thing, and he already knows our system and our players. But then again, our system's being replaced, so that's a hard dig to say. But I will say this. Darnell Savage, when you think of the defense over there in Green Bay, there's only one name that you hear above his. Only one. It literally, there was only one. And I can't think, the name is blanking right now, but it's their top corner.
Zaire Alexander.
Yeah, Zaire Alexander. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, he's a beast, but if you heard any other big plays out of that Green Bay defense, it was Darnell Savage.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, we need playmakers like that. And don't get me wrong, I think Darnell Savage is going to be a great mentor for the likes of Antonio Johnson. I think putting him in there with Antonio's just going to sponge up that knowledge because Antonio's already a stud.
Right.
Already so good. And I'm super excited about Antonio Johnson.
I think he's going to be good for Cisco as well.
I do too. I think Cisco needs some work.
Yes.
I love Cisco overall, but he needs work. And I think personally he needs to get healthy. That's the biggest problem with Cisco is because
he kept knocking his shoulder out, man.
Yeah, I know. And he really hurt our team coming back. He hurt us by him being on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think he could also take a note from Trev on because Trev made it clear in the conference. He said, if I can't play, I'm a hurt the team. I'm hurting our chances and I'll sit. I'll do it for the betterment of the team. And I think the list of players that should have taken that same note were Andre, Tyson Campbell, and Zay Jones. I think all three of those guys should have taken that same note and gotten healthy and stop trying to come back and making it worse. Because not only did they come back and make it worse for themselves, but they got exposed multiple times in their respective positions because of their injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think overall you pair the likes of Darnell Savage with bringing in some more support for the replacement of D. Will and helping out Tyson Campbell with Ronald Darby. I think you put this defense is really starting to take shape now.
Yes.
I think the draft is going to tighten it the rest of the way up. I really hope it does. But I think, I absolutely think that our defense is taking shape, and I gave it an A for that reason because another thing you said, he's not a short rental. Mm-hmm. He shows up and he balls out. Not only is he a mentor, but he could be a long-term piece.
Oh, yeah.
So that being said, I can't give it anything less than an A. I see the undersized dig, and I completely understand you. I mean, I agree there. But when I think, like I said, I think back to the likes of Deshaun Gibson and stuff like that, man, I can't knock him for it because he's still making plays.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good point.
I think me personally, I'm going to give him a B. I think just because even though he was solid in Green Bay, I think he's still relatively unproven. I think he can develop into an A or an A plus player. I think what people aren't talking about, and I'm gonna bring Darby in on this too. I think what people are not talking about enough with this Nielsen scheme, and people aren't realizing is Darnell Savage ran a 4.36 coming out of college. Ronald Darby ran a 4.38 coming out of college.
You're
You know,
fast.
these guys might not be 6'2", whatever it is. You know, these guys had high verticals. They ran very fast, something D-Will couldn't do. We're going to play more man coverage in this scheme. The Falcons played some of the most man coverage last year out of any team. Well, we played some of the least. You know, we've got to have guys that can run with people. I don't think Darius Williams can be that guy in this scheme because while he is undersized, but I don't trust Darius Williams to run down the field with the likes of, you know, Christian Watson, who we play this year. I don't trust him to run downfield with guys like Jamar Chase, who we play every year. You know, it's one of those things like Tyson Campbell. We talked about him. One of the things he got exposed with this year, not even just his injury, he's small. He's tall. He's athletic. He's fast. He is small. He got absolutely manhandled in the Bengals game when he come back from the injury. Jamar Chase on that long touchdown, literally one hand just pushed him back without even looking back at him. Just pushed him off of him, caught the ball and took off. He's small. He's got to put on weight. You know, Darnell Savage he's solid. He's built solid. He's 5'11", but he's built solid. You know, at safety 5'11", I mean, that's a pretty decent number. It's not like he's Earl Thomas. He's not 5'9", you know.
Yeah.
But he's not Cam Chancellor. He's not 6'3", you know, but he's right there in the middle. I think he's a solid player, but people aren't talking about his speed enough. I think he hits hard for his size. I think he could be a good asset for us. Now, I don't know, even with the speed, if I want him playing nickel. I still think that AJ, even though he's a little slower, Antonio Johnson, I still think he's going to play more nickel than Savage. We could see Savage rotating into that role. We could see Antonio Johnson be the strong safety. I don't know what that's going to look like. But I think, honestly, you know, with Savage, that gives us more flexibility to even rotate the three. Cisco, Savage, and AJ at this point are pretty much interchangeable, you know, in my opinion. I think Cisco can roll down. I think this gives us a rolling defense. I don't think we have to play a roll defense. I don't think AJ has to be the nickel. I don't think Cisco has to be the free safety. I don't think Savage has to be the strong safety or has to be this. I think all three players can play all three positions. I think we can roll the defense rather than being so predictable to where we know, okay, well, Antonio Johnson's playing slot. If we put, you know, our fastest receiver in there, he's not going to be able to keep up down the field.
Right.
And honestly, if Cisco can stay healthy, you know, one thing I like about, you know, Tony Wiggins, I watch him all the time. One of my favorite things he says about Andre Cisco is he's the tax collector. If you come over the middle of the field, you're gonna get knocked out. It doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, and that's a good thing and a bad thing because last year he knocked his shoulder out versus the Bengals whenever he hit that tight end. Now he knocked the crap out of that tight end, but he knocked the crap out of himself and he knocked his shoulder out of socket. He came back in with the brace, playing a little hurt, you know. It's one of those things where, you know, if he can stay healthy, we can rotate those guys. We can play them anywhere. I think it's going to be a great addition. Kind of segue it into what do we feel about Ronald Darby? How are we feeling about that signing?
I'm loving it.
Oh yeah,
I'm loving it.
Me too.
I'm looking if Campbell can stay healthy and you got Darby on the other side, man, that's a heck of a duo right there.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Not to mention we might get somebody in the draft too.
Yes. So I'm loving it. I mean, Tyson, that hamstring, it hampered him, but he had a pretty decent season last year, actually. Tyson Campbell.
When he played.
Yeah, statistic-wise, absolutely right.
So, I mean, let's be honest. If you're out there on the corners, you know, you're going to give up some plays. You are. Especially we have today. Yeah, but overall, he had a good one. So if you put Darby on the other side, it's not going to be Boyer and Ramsey, but it's be respectable enough to where they just can't pick on one. You see what I'm saying? So I guess that's where the slot is going to come in. The slot corner is going to come in more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. I think you're absolutely right. What
would your grade be, Eric?
For Darby, A.
Okay.
Yeah. A. Because like you said, I always have said when I watch the Jaguars, especially defense play, we need some speed, man.
We do, absolutely.
You know, we need some speed because you watch them and sometimes you be like, man, why are they so slow? You know?
And slow off the ball.
Yeah. So I have to get out of A. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Trev?
I think absolutely right there in the same boat, man. I swear I sound like I'm just a Trent Baalke lover right now, but
everybody does this offseason.
Here's the biggest thing, and the reason I'm giving such high grades right now is not because like I've been harsh on the grades in the past. Like my grade for Brandon Scherf would have been a C, maybe a B at best, like a low B because of the money. Yeah. I knew that the money was too much. We overpaid for him, and I knew it.
Jacksonville tax, baby.
The Jacksonville tax. You're absolutely right. I think when we look at Ronald Darby, I mean, Ronald Darby has just hit a resurgence in his career too. Like I don't think enough people are talking about that. That man is on fire.
Had a great year last year.
He did. He had an amazing year. And not only that, I think our best defenses or renditions of anything we've ever had, offense or defense, is when we're fast.
Yes.
And for like 5 years, we've been slow as hell. I mean, point blank. I mean, since the 17 season, we got slow.
Yes.
And it was obvious we got exposed, especially when we were running, Marquise Lee as our one. You know what I mean? We're running Marquise Lee as our one. You know what I mean? Like, tell me you're slow without telling me you're slow, And you come back and you look at our defense, like even Saxonville, okay? The only reason Saxonville was possible is because our DBs were lightning fast.
Right.
Like, we were on the field and we were on the other side of the field like that. Okay, it was instant. There was no room for down the field throws that we're giving up now, and a lot of it should be accredited. I think why I would have to say that Rayshawn, first of all, I don't think he got a fair shake here. And the reason I say that is because of all the testimonies we're hearing now to the inconsistencies from Mike Caldwell and the lack of consistent plays and the plays constantly being changed. Because I can say this. There were weeks where it felt like the game plan was strong. When we ran man coverage, or if we picked one game plan, ran it the whole time, mainly man coverage, we were actually winning the games defensively. Like defensively, we're dominating, and it's not close.
Flacco to the Colts on a 1-year deal. I'm sorry.
What happened?
So the Colts fan in my group chat just put "God damn it" all in separate text and said Flacco to the Colts on a 1-year deal.
No way.
Because Minshew left, so now Flacco, if Richardson gets hurt, which is a chance he will with how he plays, it's Flacco's season, baby.
I think Flacco did really good though.
Oh,
yeah, no, absolutely. But he also had that Browns team is nothing to sneeze.
No, it's not. It's not. It's nothing at all. But to wrap up the Ronald Darby thing, great pick, great sign. I think especially money wise, we didn't break the bank for him.
Our defense did have problems against veteran backup quarterbacks, though. They did.
Yeah, it was consistency, but it's because we had these glaring holes in zone.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And
Njoku had 100 yards in the first quarter, basically. Like,
you literally, because again, it's you think about it, like I was saying about Rayshawn and his unfair shake, is because of these inconsistencies when we come down to looking at our play call. And if you're bringing Rayshawn from a low cover 2 shadow to an up high 3 cover 3 zone in the far right of the field, but you also want him to watch the drag route from a tight end, there's nobody's making that.
No
one. Nobody's making that play.
It's not
possible. And then you think about it, the plays we're running man coverage, Rayshawn is a headhunter in those plays. And Rayshawn is one of our most consistent defensive performers.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think, don't get me wrong, he is getting older. He's not old yet, but he's getting there, but man, you think about the foresight, and that's where the foresight question comes in, which is why I love the Darnell Savage pick so much, which is why I had to give it an A+ or an A, because of our releasing of Rayshawn, is we have to have someone there. And I think Rayshawn, I feel Rayshawn would have been just fine in our new defensive scheme. I think actually with some consistency and a lot more speedy, blitzing packages and man-to-man coverages, Rayshawn could have had a resurgence of his own career personally. I think that was completely possible from Rayshawn. But I will say Ronald Darby, Darnell Savage, I mean, I can't hate either. I'm completely happy
can't be
with
mad
this
at
out there. No, I'm not upset at all. I'm very happy with these.
Right.
For sure. And I mean, let's see. Last one here, we got Devin Duvernay. How are we feeling about Duvernay? I know we talked a little bit about him earlier. Actually, I'm sorry. On Darby, I forgot to. So, me personally, for Darby, B. Only reason I say that is I don't think we brought Darby in to be our number 2 corner. I think we brought Darby in to share reps with a rookie that we draft. I think we're going, I think we're going to be drafting a rookie early. I could be wrong on that. He could be coming in as number 1. That's just my personal opinion. I think we drafted him to mentor and be there for a rookie and to take reps with him and to be able to play a little bit of slot if we need him to, or maybe slide the rookie in. That's just my grade. I think a B. If he comes in, he starts the whole season. I mean, of course, these are subject to change. That's just my initial thoughts on it.
Well, looking at our division, who we have to face now, and the receivers, yeah, he would have to start off as your 1. Now, maybe they can work the rookie in, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, he would have to start off. Yeah, right now, because who we facing in the division, yeah, you just can't put a rookie out there if he's just, not just a stud.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask your opinions on this guy real quick? Speaking of taking reps, Monteric Brown.
I love Monteric Brown. I really do. I just think he needs more playing time because he's shown the ability. He really has. He just needs more playing time.
Honestly, I don't think outside of a couple of plays, there was really much drop off between him coming in and Campbell going out. I think something people don't realize is his senior year or his last year in college. I don't remember if he made it to junior or senior, but he was all SEC and he led the SEC in interceptions. I mean, he's a great player. He was playing against, really great receivers in the SEC. He was playing against great guys, I think he doesn't get talked about enough. I think his contribution doesn't get talked about enough, but I don't think he's good enough for us to not pursue somebody elite if we get the chance. But I do think that as a role player and as a rotational aspect, I don't think he gets enough reps either. And when I play Madden, I build around him all the time because I love the dude. I think he's a great player. He's not the fastest, but he's fast enough, and he's good in coverage, and he's sticky. That's one thing people don't say enough about him is he's a very sticky player. He's always there. He knows just enough body contact and hand fight how to stay in it without getting that penalty. I like him a lot, and I think that people don't talk about him enough, but I do think that he's not good enough, at least not with what we've seen, to not go after somebody if we get the chance to get somebody great in the first round or second round.
Completely agree. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all my points on Monteric Brown as well.
And we can let's go over Duvernay. I'm gonna say, because the draft is still next month at the end of the month, let's hold off on our draftees till next pod. I think we gel a little too good, guys. So we've talked a lot, and I think it's gonna be very entertaining for everybody. Personally, there's been no quiet time. This is awesome. I think we need to give people a break after watching all this. Let's get some quick grades on Duvernay, a couple comments, and then we can wrap this one up, and then we'll talk about the draft next week. You can keep your same notes. You can make some new ones if you see some new stuff. But I think this has been awesome. And since we got a little bit of time, let's not pigeonhole ourselves into a short free draft talk. Let's get a good draft talk next week.
Okay.
I feel like we could definitely make a whole pod out of just that.
Absolutely. And then we can make a whole podcast out of me and my Press Taylor stuff. That's for another time.
Next week we're doing Press Taylor time.
Okay.
Draft time. And I also want to throw one more.
We let him get started early.
With the start,
I say we let him get early, so he gonna get it out.
Yeah, because he's gonna have to go ahead and get that out. I gotta hear that.
Let's get this Duvernay stuff out of the way, and then we'll wrap this up, guys. Thanks a lot again. But what are we feeling on Devin Duvernay?
Go ahead, Trevor, because I think I said toe with mine already.
I think Devin Duvernay is, again, I'm just a bulky lover this week, I guess. Devin Duvernay is an A for me. The speed is insane. Okay. And his versatility, he is literally a Swiss Army knife in any way you see it. Like, I play Madden with him all the time. And personally, I'm not going to lie, a lot of times I'll sub in Duvernay over Hollywood in the older rosters. He's not in there anymore. Obviously, he's not there. But in the older rosters, I'd sub in Duvernay, mainly because his change of direction is insane. Okay. He's on a dime, and he does it now. I think he is that route runner that we needed to replace Calvin Ridley. I think his speed is who we needed to replace Calvin Ridley. I don't think his size is what we need to replace Calvin Ridley, but I do think, again, Christian Kirk can't play every snap of the game.
Right.
Okay. And honestly, I think Duvernay's a perfect contest for Zay Jones because someone needs to light a fire under his ass and make him understand that the inconsistencies that come from you in the end zone, especially, are not acceptable anymore. Because you went for a long stretch of time where you made spectacular catches in the end zone. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have touchdowns in some of these games. And that's what got you like a household name in our offense. Okay. But you can't take that and live off of it forever. Right. That's just, unfortunately, that's not how this works. You've got to keep making plays. And he hasn't. Even before his injury, he still wasn't really showing up. You know, he played okay at best, you know, and I think it's crazy, especially because he was getting a lot of attention the year before from the defenses, and he played better. Now that Calvin took the attention away from him, he just fell off. And I think Duvernay will very easily spark the competition there because I think Zay is not stupid. You can tell from the press conferences and the way that he handles himself, the speaking mannerisms he has, and just, you know, his general thought process and football IQ. He's a very smart individual. He's not dumb. He knows that Duvernay is a talented player, a fast player, better route runner, in my opinion, anyway. I think he knows that he could have some competition there for that 3. And, you know, if he doesn't get his stuff together, he might soon quickly find himself sharing reps, if not watching.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, for me personally, I think Duvernay is Jamal Agnew plus. You know, he's very shifty. He's 200 pounds, 5'11". He's a thick player compared to Jamal Agnew. I think, you know, Jamal Agnew took a lot of big hits in returning and didn't fumble very often. It was whenever he was playing receiver, he just couldn't hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
You know, he had some big plays for us. You know, I don't think that it should be knocked. I don't think it should be knocked what he did here and how he helped us in the return game. But Duvernay is a player that we can bring in and put in at receiver and not be a complete liability. You know, it's one of those things that I do agree. I think he's going to give a lot of competition to Zay Jones. I think Zay Jones is really going to fight hard to stay in this offense, but Zay Jones might be a cap casualty at the end of the day. If Duvernay comes in and does well, if we draft a new wide receiver, if we draft a Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, you know, we draft a Ricky Pearsall, we draft a Keon Coleman. I think Zay Jones is gone personally. I don't think you can have this many receivers. I don't think we're putting too much stock into one position at that point. And you know, I think he's got to go at that. We got to see what we do. We might wait until like our compensatory pick at the end of the 3rd round. We might wait till the 4th round. But you know, if we draft the receiver round 1 or round 2, I think Zay Jones is gone. There's no question in my mind.
And it's the best move in my opinion as well.
Yeah.
I think there's no way he stays. And which is why I wasn't really biting my nails too hard over the Calvin Ridley situation. Would it have been nice to get him back? I do think so.
Yes.
I think if we got him back, it would have been good. But I will say, though, we were very quickly becoming wide receiver university. Okay, like we've got too many positions of need, in my opinion. Like I think one thing we should consider doing, which this is a hot take that, you know, we can either discuss it now or, you know, you might take some notes and see what you guys might think, like who you would want to see trade for or what you think he would warrant in capital. But personally, I think we should be considering the idea, or just considering, not necessarily doing, but the idea of moving Tank Bigsby. And here's my reasoning. Okay. Now, here's my reasoning. I literally hold my breath when the man gets the ball.
Yes.
First of all, I hold my breath. And it's not because he doesn't have the potential. He's got the potential, which is why I think he could be a good piece to move. I think he's just not a fit for us. I think ETN is clearly our guy. And I think with the extension of D'Ernest Johnson, which D'Ernest Johnson came in and made very good plays, and that guy fights for his field time. That guy fights for the ball. Okay, and that's what we need here. D'Ernest Johnson is a great there, and I think Tank Bigsby has too much potential just to be a depth player. I think he's got more potential than that, and I think that if we made him into a piece, he could reward us greatly for that, and he could actually get the potential chance to play in a system that benefits him, because ours is not it. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't see it being it.
Well, I agree with you. I really do. because here in my notes I have, coming up, whether it's in the draft or free agency, we need a big bruising back. We do. Tank is not it. For those third and goals, fourth and goals, fourth and ones, fourth and inches. Somebody that's don't. If you're in front of me, and I don't care if you're on my team or not, I'm gonna move you. You know what I mean?
He was supposed to be that guy, and unfortunately, he's just not delivering.
No, and with Travis, taking all the snaps he took last year because he's taking pounding now. Yeah, we need to bring that. Now I thought about this too, though. We can take one of them big old defensive linemen, offensive linemen we got, put them back there with them, and do the freest thing from back in the day.
Oh yeah, yes. Cooper Hodges, send him up the middle.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, but I agree with you. We can move him, and I think he would be better right now somewhere else, unless they just find a special nicks for him in our offense. But like you said, right now I don't see it.
I think with somebody we could probably get really cheap because of the situation he was just put in, that is still a good third down back, right. Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones just got released from Green Bay after they brought in Josh Jacobs.
The Vikings signed him for a big contract.
I might have missed that. Okay,
well, it was 2 or 3 years for a decent bit of money.
Well, yeah, he just. I think though we need to have someone that can switch in often with ETN. I don't think ETN needs to be out there 20 plus snaps a drive because he needs to last. Yes. Unfortunately, he needs to last. I think that's why MJD's career wasn't as successful when he left Duval, because he just took a beating, and he continued to take a beating over and over again. And I think ETN is storied for that same fate because of our lack of offensive line and our lack of, gelling and flush movements with our passing game, which we will fix that. And that will take the load off of ETN. I completely understand that. But I think D'Ernest Johnson, first of all, in my opinion, I think D'Ernest Johnson is a perfect 3rd and 1 back. In my opinion, he's a bruiser. He's not the size of a bruiser, but he plays like a bruiser. That guy plays hard. And I can't remember a time we went short yardage with D'Ernest Johnson and he didn't get it.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see much of that, but we'll see. I know when he was at Cleveland, yes, and maybe it's the way we're using him in Jacksonville, and maybe that's what it is, and maybe they'll go back and look at the film or have looked at film over this time and said, okay, yeah, but I still say we may need that, or just bring one of them big linemen in and say, hey, look, hit anything in your way, just open the hole.
I'm of the opposite opinion. I think Tank Bigsby, along with Brenton Strange, both get a bad rap because of minimal usage. And I think that they went away from them early for rookie mistakes. And I think that they got especially Tank Bigsby. He had the tip ball that got picked. He had the fumble in the Colts game. I think that stuff really ruined him mentally. And I think that they didn't give him enough in the season and to give him enough confidence and get behind him enough for him to feel like he could be a good back in our system. Also, not to mention, I think what's crazy about Tank Bigsby for me, everyone gives Travis Etienne the pass about how shitty our offensive line is and how we can't run up the middle, but nobody gives Tank Bigsby the pass because Tank Bigsby, he's bigger. Etienne and him are about the same size, but he's a bigger back physically than Etienne. And I think that nobody gives him the same slack that they give ETN for how bad the O-line was. Because literally everybody always talks about, Press Taylor's going to just run it up the middle and it doesn't work because our O-line sucks and our center's terrible. Okay, well, that's what Tank Bigsby is. Tank Bigsby is the guy. He can go east and west, but he is made to go up the middle of the field. Right. And when you don't have a center that couldn't push his way out of a wet paper bag, there's nothing we can do there. And that's my thing about Tank Bigsby too, is there were a couple times, and Trevor has admitted to this, there was a couple times where Trevor called his own number whenever it was supposed to be Bigsby. And like in the Titans game, wasn't it? Whenever he called his own number and he was short and we ended up losing the game.
Yes.
The hole was wide enough for 5 Tank Bigsbys to fit through, and he was in that play. And Trevor called his own number, and Bigsby, I mean, it was a clear I could have scored a touchdown on that. I ran a 5 flat. That's the best 40 time I've ever ran. I could have got a touchdown on that play. And Trevor, that's the thing is like Tank Bigsby gets a bad rap. We did not use him enough. We didn't use Brenton Strange enough. And I think that people are giving these guys now I do agree that I don't think we're the best scheme for Tank Bigsby. I do think there are other teams he could be more successful with, but I think we could be the right scheme for Bigsby if we got the O-line in front of him for him to be able to split reps with ETN, because he's more of a Derrick Henry type back. And when I say that, I don't mean he's not 6'2", he's not 250 pounds running a 4.5. He's a downhill runner. He can't get hit in the backfield. And that's the thing that like people are talking about ETN. ETN was hit the most behind the line of scrimmage, and he had the most broken tackles. And that's awesome. It's awesome that he can do that. Tank Bigsby's not that guy. Tank Bigsby isn't shifty. He can't get hit in the backfield, but once he gets ahead of steam going, we saw it a couple times in the season. He carried people in the preseason. He played really, really well. I know it was against backups, but he played well. We got pushed in the preseason. I just think he's a player, along with Brenton Strange. They get a little bit of a bad rap because of where they were drafted, what we have perceived at that position, and the lack of usage for rookie mistakes that anybody would make as a rookie, but our coaching staff just didn't give them the confidence and the backing they needed to get back out there and make plays.
You're right.
I agree with you. You know what was strange? I was impressed by Strange.
I'm a big Strange fan.
Yeah, because I remember a couple of catches and runs he made, especially against Houston. I'm like, okay, all right.
And he had a couple called back that were nice too.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I do have to make this point to you, Isaiah, though. I agree with what you're saying about the not giving him the same credit as ETN, because I did say this early in the season. I said he's going to get this ironed out just like ETN did, because if you'll remember ETN's first season, he was a fumble machine.
Yeah,
fumble machine.
He was a fumble machine, and look at him now.
That's true.
Okay,
yeah.
I think Tank Bigsby has the potential. Again, it's not that I don't think Tank Bigsby is a good player.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that we are going to use him enough to be what we need him to be and get our value out of him, if that makes sense. Like,
oh no, absolutely.
I wouldn't suggest moving him because I necessarily don't like him. I will say I do hold my breath when he gets the ball. I hold my breath when he gets the ball because I know he's not getting the play time to correct the issue. He's not. He doesn't have the opportunity, so the issue will still be there, and you can still see that he is fearful of the issue. And I think that it was obvious that our mechanics team and our coaching staff was terrible. Okay, because how did Jamal Agnew not have his wide receiver fumbling issues resolved over the past 2 years? They still weren't resolved. I guarantee you to this day, if you ran a jet sweep with him 9 out of 10 times, he's still going to fumble it. Okay, and the crazy part is these people are making millions to correct these issues, and they're not. And you look at the likes of Tank Bigsby. Now, time will tell how Tank Bigsby does behind Mitch Morse, because Mitch Morse is a bus mover. You said it earlier. You're absolutely right. You put Ezra Cleveland in there. He's also a bus mover. I was so happy when we traded for him, and I am very happy that we were not stupid enough to let him walk afterwards. I'm very happy that we extended him. I think this new line, I think you give Trevor a couple plays to breathe, because basically, I think to sum all of what we've been talking about up, and the reason that I love these picks and these signs that we've been making and like the grades I've given are because you can see it coming together now. Trevor's struggles came from constantly having to throw from 3rd and 10 and 3rd and 10 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
ETN's struggles came from running up the gut on 1st and 10 into a line that doesn't move anybody.
Yep.
And our wide receiver struggles came from injury and lack of concentration from someone who was more self-absorbed than he was a team player in Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Okay. And those things being said, that literally, in my opinion, sums up our offensive problems, because here's where I won't get into the whole topic because I know we're going to discuss it next week, but the only dig I would have on Press Taylor is, you as an offensive coordinator, you have to see this. You're seeing these things happen. Change the scheme to something that will work for what we have going on. Okay. Or if you
I'll
don't
go into that next week.
if you don't want to do that, if you can't find a way to do that, you're the offensive coordinator. Make something happen. That is your job. It is your job. Even though we have offensive quality control coordinator, you're his boss. Offense is not quality. We are not doing good football, okay? And you can see it. You're in the box every week. You're looking down on it. You can see the clear issues here, and you keep going back to allow them to happen again and again and again. Yeah. And it's not because the plays he's calling aren't a good scheme, I guess, for our guys, except for the up the gut calls with ETN. Okay. Up the gut is not that I disagree with it per se on 1st and 10. I mean, with a good line at least. Standard football, it's a good call. For our team, not a good call. I just think Press Taylor was not very observant and aware of our personnel and who we were using and what positions and what they were capable of. I think if he becomes more aware and more observant of these guys and what their strengths are, we're lethal. And he's shown that we can be, and he's done it multiple times, like the Colts game. We destroyed the Colts. It was not even close. When they came to Jacksonville, we decimated the Colts, and it wasn't funny. Okay? And that's when he played to everyone's strength.
I laughed. I hate the Colts.
I just Wait, one more thing I have to say, though, before this pod ends, and then I'm done talking.
Go ahead.
Who is the most hated team from each of you in the AFC South? I will go first. Fuck the Texans. And I have to say the F-bomb because the Texans, I get heated.
I actually talked to Eric before everybody joined up earlier. I actually personally have never had a problem with the Texans. I fucking hate the Titans. Can't stand them.
I hate them too. I hate everybody.
Titans for me, that's the team.
Yeah, they kept the only team that really kept us from going to the Super Bowl. Well, New England, but that, Miles Jack went down. But Jeff Fisher and the Titans back in the day. 14-2.
I do think, in my opinion, that the Texans are
14-2, right? During the regular season. Both losses stem. We get into playoffs. We destroy Miami. Make Dan Marino retire. Who comes to town on a lucky play? Tennessee. And we had home field advantage. And what we do? Lose.
Yep.
So all 3 of our losses that season came from Tennessee. Ever since then, no.
I think the Texans are quickly becoming our new Titans.
Well, yeah. Well, the Texans, the thing about Texas, they have always played us tough, though. I don't know what it is. When they have a bad team, a good team, we just have problems with them.
If they're going to get one win a year, one of them will be against us.
Yes.
Every damn year.
Yes. And I have to
hear. All right. Thanks for coming on, guys. I really enjoyed my time. Thanks for coming on. It does mean a lot to have Jaguars fans I can sit here and talk to in this type of setting. Again, we're going to try and do this once a week. I don't think he's going to hold us to once a week, though. So if we do decide to kind of do this a little bit more, that's fine. I do know that as everything goes on, we're going to continue to have fun with this. And then we're going to be doing our, come together AFC South show. If there's any time I can't make it, I would be more than happy to let one of you guys fill in if you have the opportunity or the time. And then even so, I mean, there might be some times where I just want to let one of y'all come on, or I might be able to bring y'all on with me, get a little backup in there, talk trash about those other teams.
No problem. We can do that.
But we're going to keep this thing going. I hope everybody enjoyed. This is our first episode. I know it's a little bit of a long one, but that's all right. It's Jaguars football, baby. I know y'all sit there and watch Tony for an hour. I know you sit there and watch Reverend Dunn for an hour. I know you sit there and watch Skip Bayless yell at people for an hour. Hey, I know y'all sit there and watch other people for 2-3 hours at the time. Thanks for stopping in. If you watched all the way to the end, go Jags. Thanks for coming out. I hope we can make this something big. Thanks again for coming on, guys. I'm going to cut it off here. Anything y'all want to say before we end it? I see.
It was always the Jags, baby.
It was always the Jags.
Always. Duval.
All right, boys.
All right, man.